2-minute break and have the council candidates come up. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back to the second forum here for the evening. And we have 6 candidates. As you can see, this is the order that they picked the numbers, and it should be way easier this time because I don't have to have everybody back to back and switch back and forth. So, but the other way doesn't work either because I can't have the same person go first every single time. All right, so the way this is going to work is you get your 2-minute introduction, and Ms. Beck's going to go first, and then we will move our way down the line. And then when we turn around, the first question number 1, Ms. Vining will answer first. Question number 2, Mr. Chakwin will answer first, and we will go down and around. All right? So, we've got questions. If you have more, get them to the ladies in the back. So, Ms. Beck, you're number 1.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Chamber of Commerce, and I see school board members here and council members, and the residents. Thank you for attending this evening. I am Debbie Beck. I am a native of Pacific Grove, born and raised on 19th Street. Caledonia Park was a big part of my life growing up, and my rec leader, Charlene, is here. When I saw her, I got very emotional. Rec department was very important to me as a child growing up. Over the years, I have learned through my grandmother to give back to our community. She supported both the fire department and the police department through the holidays, making Afghans, those type of things. That's the community we grew up here, up in Pacific Grove. Through the years, I have been a volunteer at our schools. I have power washed the entire high school one summer along with Alex Rodriguez, who is another resident of Pacific Grove. We were recognized by the school board for that. And I continue to get involved with city government, and I sat on as a chair on the Economic Development Committee. I'm currently on the Planning Commission, and I am a business owner in Pacific Grove. I have children and grandchildren, and I am one of 4 generations still living in Pacific Grove. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vining.
Yes, I'd also like to thank the League of Women's Voters for this opportunity to bring all the candidates together. And I was born at Chomp. I grew up on Forest Avenue. 110 years ago, my great grandmother, she came over from Chular, California, out of the Salinas Valley for a better life. She was a widow to my great grandmother. She was a widow at 48 years old. She had to work at Grove Laundry, the lodge at Pebble Beach. And she was just an equally wonderful woman. Did the switchboard before retiring at the Forest Home Manor. I went to high school class of 1997, and I worked at Bookworks, Pier 1 Imports, and the Bagel Bakery. I graduated with an associate's degree from MPC, a bachelor's in organizational leadership, and I have a master's degree in IT project management, not to be confused with an MBA. I am a renter, and I have a 3-year-old son. One of the reasons why I'm voting, or why I'm running, because I want him to have the same type of life that I grew up here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vining. Mr. Chakwin?
Good evening, and I want to echo everyone else's thanks to the League of Women Voters. It's wonderful that I get invited anywhere, and this is a great place to be invited. I'm happy to run for office to get an invitation to visit someone. Only kidding. My name is Mark Chakwin. I first came to PG in 1977. Came back to study at DLI, and I came back here, Lover's Point. I was here before they even had an aquarium, and it was a very different city. It's sort of the same city, but not quite as sharp and nice as it is. I grew up in New York City, which is almost the same as Pacific Grove. My part. But I can talk more about that, but unfortunately I can't even say my name in a minute or 2 minutes, so this is going to be hard. I'm running for city council because of I'm running for city council, and I think I'm qualified for the following 3 reasons. I have the expertise. I have the energy to do this. And finally, I have the moral values to do this. The expertise is, 1 minute, holy. The expertise is 8 years on planning commission. I was a member, I was a secretary, I was a vice chair. If you saw the ATC hearing, you saw Mark Chakwin. Half of you are going to hate me, half of you are going to love me. But that was me. I know the code of this city. I also know the, as all but dissertation PhD for public policy analysis for cities and states, I understand the government process at this level very well. I volunteered in the expertise is there, the energy is there. Anyone who knows me knows I dig into things, I use my critical thinking, I use my type A personality to make sure I come to any meeting knowing the questions and knowing the answers before it happens. And finally, the moral values. You need to be grounded in the core values of the city to execute what you want to do and to relate to the people. There are problems, housing, water. There's one other problem. On the city council now, it's kind of in a bubble. Great guys, great gals, all that's good. But it's less transparency and less communication from you. I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Chakwin. Ms. Rao.
Thank you so much. I'm going to wrestle this mic from him all night.
No.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the PG Chamber for arranging this candidate forum. My name is Tina Rao. I lived in Pacific Grove for almost 20 years, and then I moved away from my career. I've moved all over the state, but PG is the one place I always felt like home. Almost 6 years ago, in anticipation of my retirement, we bought a small house, fixed it up, and 5 years ago made PG our forever home. There are a lot of issues facing Pacific Grove. Some of those include a crumbling infrastructure, including sidewalks and streets. We should also be replacing our aging infrastructure with renewable energy. We need to invest in a recycled water delivery system, and we need to be responsible stewards of the environment. Living on the shore of the Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary is a serious responsibility. We need a strong small business base in our 4 commercial districts. Our downtown is shrinking, and if the vacancies continue, we won't have a downtown to enjoy. My plans include creating an incubator space in one of the large vacant buildings so that 4 to 6 small businesses can share the building until they build up their business and can move to their own spaces. I'd also like to have a city program that attracts PG students back home after they finish college or trade school that helps them open new businesses in a restaurant or retail. We need a commercial kitchen space to help small restaurants get on their feet. We need to have an accessible playground space for our special needs kids in our community. I'd love to see a dog park and a skate park built so that everyone has a community space to gather. I believe that if we put PG first, everything else will follow. If we have a strong small business base, we can use that tax revenue to complete the projects as well as support any community-funded projects.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio.
This is on, right? Okay. You're probably not going to vote for my re-election because I'm a Monterey High School Toreador. And I grew up in Monterey, New Monterey, but my dad always brought us over to Pacific Grove, Lover's Point. Many of you probably remember the saltwater pool. We were always jumping in the pool, having a grand time there. Every weekend we were there barbecuing. My dad was a World War II vet, and he told me always do something for people. Always do something for people. And when I was real small. So that's what my career has been. I'm presently a council member for Pacific Grove City Council. I'm also Mayor Pro Tem. I'm also on the board of directors for the MST project. MST, I'm a board of directors from there. I'm a city council representative for the traffic commission, the museum board. I have been on the recreation board also. Also the police, I've also been on the Police Community Relations Board. My quick career is from police officer in Gilroy to teacher, coach, assistant superintendent of San Jose schools, and my wife and I retired back here in Pacific Grove. I have a lot of ideas. I want to continue with the projects we have on the books right now and in the queue, and I'll go through them. I'm sure I'm going to be asking questions about that anyway. So that's my career, and I'll stop right there.
Thank you, Mr. Amelio. Ms. McDonnell.
I'd also like to echo the thank yous to the League of Women Voters. I much appreciate the opportunity to get out here and meet everyone, because one of the things that I think is most important is making sure that our community is heard, and my goal is to be your representative. Although I'm not the one who's lived here the longest, I've been working my way to get here because I've loved this town since childhood. My mom has been coming here since her childhood. Her dad had a business partner here. And so this has always been the place that I want to call home. And I'm so happy I'm able to do that now, and want to make sure this is some place that we can love being for, all the time to come. I believe in order to have a vital community, it's critical that we support the needs of our residents, our businesses, and the environment. So one of my top goals is to make sure we work to honor our stewardship of the environment. We are so fortunate to live in this beautiful place. And with that does come a responsibility. So I want to make sure that we recognize that when we sell our city, we're often selling the beauty of our community. We're selling our environment and our nature. And so by being good stewards, that supports our economy and bringing in the tourists to support us. And that in turn supports our residents by bringing in the revenue we need so that we can get city services met, such as repairing our roads, putting in the sidewalks, and everything else that our community needs to remain thriving and vital. I want to make sure, as I said, that the community is heard. So I want to make sure we're always allowing opportunities like this, for people to be part of. And I think we can tap into our community wisdom. We have a lot of wise people who can support us finding great solutions if we create a forum for that to happen in a more structured way. Homelessness, obviously a key priority. I myself am also a renter, and I'm keenly aware of those issues. I want to make sure we find creative solutions for making sure our current residents remain housed as a top priority. I'm a researcher. I take a big picture perspective, and I think that the more we look into options, we'll have great outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, question number 1, and Ms. Hyman, you're going to go first.
Okay.
So, please tell us your top 3 strengths which will help you in your role as city council.
I'm a research analyst. I'm a data analyst. And I'm also very good with listening to both sides. I grew up in a large family, and there was a lot of wanting attention. There was a lot of tug and pull. And these 3 attributes are the key. If you have been to any city council meetings, that's exactly what, I can influence, but I'm not the only one making the decision. So those are primarily where I come from, and I think that's important of everyone who is a city council member. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chakwin?
I started out thank you. I started out with exactly that, the top 3 reasons why I think I'm qualified. And I'll expand just a little bit in the 30 or 60 seconds that I'll be handcuffed into. Expertise, of course, in the Planning Commission. I've dealt with our code in our city for LCP for many years, sitting side by side with some of the best and smartest people in this town, figuring out what our environmental shelf should look like and how it should go forward. City Council didn't quite agree sometimes, but we went there. Secondly, energy. I believe you can't go into an issue, you can't get a packet and have staff says do this, and people sitting there saying, well, I guess we're going to do this or not do this. No, you have to know beforehand what are the ramifications, what are the second tier influences, and dig into it. If you're not, and there are a couple of council members who do that. And the final thing is, you have to know the people here. I've been here since on and off, basically since 1990, 2000, nonstop. My grandkids went to Robert Down. For a year, my kid graduated, my stepson, and I know the people. I am the people.
Thank you, Mr.
I told you I was going to
Chakwin.
have to wrestle this.
Ms. Rao?
Sorry.
Thank you. I think 3 top strengths I would pick are listening, which I think is very important on the council, time management and organization, and being prepared. And I think if you've watched the council meetings, you'll see that oftentimes people will say, well, I haven't read the sheet, but, you know, I'll take a crack at it. And that doesn't serve the city. So I think it's important that everybody feels prepared, everybody understands the issues, and I think it's important to meet with as many people as possible on an issue, especially these community-driven issues that we're gonna be faced with. So listening, time management, organization, and being prepared.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio?
Thank you. One of the things, there's 3 things, there's a lot of things on the council since I've been on the past 4 years, but 3 things I concentrate on is our CIP projects, improvements in the streets, sidewalks, etc. The other thing is affordable housing. That's very important. Plus our fiscal responsibility, that's very important to make sure we're solvent in the city of Pacific Grove. If we are not solvent in the city of Pacific Grove, we will all hurt. And real quick, we were at 7.5 million during COVID, and we were able to bring that up to 10.8 million, which is above the 35%. Thank you.
Ms. McDonnell?
Thank you. I would say first is my research background has taught me to have a great critical thinking capacity, but also to look at the big picture and understand the consequences of our actions in a bigger way. So I think that I can bring that to the table in a way that will help find creative solutions to our challenges in the city. Along with that also comes also the listening. So I think that there's a level of compassion that comes into listening and really wanting to hear and understand the problems of the people in the community and to find the best solutions in that way. And I guess the other thing I would say is the sort of related is empathy. Really being able to step into the shoes of people experiencing different situations and see things from their perspective. I think that that's a really valuable way to understand what people are going through and to best support services, do needs assessments, and find out the best ways to meet our community's needs.
Thank you. Ms. Beck?
Yes, thank you for the question. In my past career, I was a consumer protection auditor, so retired from that 16 years ago, so I'm very analytical. I'm a numbers person. Looking forward to budget analysis as well for our city. Also negotiations and being a listener, so I think that's key, especially in this position. And again, just truly listening to our residents. I don't think there's enough of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 2. It is extremely difficult for many workers to find affordable housing in Pacific Grove. Is it possible for the city to help in any way? How about helping seniors? And Mr. Chakwin, you're going first.
Yes, and yes. The city does help in certain ways right now. In fact, our mayor was a member of a committee that gives the loans for people who are in houses, who are in limited incomes, who can't fix their houses, and they can fix them up with lifetime loans to renovate your houses. If you're on a fixed income and you don't have the ability to sustain your house in that, come to the city programs. There are 2 programs. The second one I haven't pulled up. But in terms of enough for the seniors, I don't think there's a focus of that. If you look, we're talking about affordable housing. We're talking about affordable housing for the workers of this town. That's great, but they're also our demographic is not only the workers. Our demographic is a lot of seniors like me, people who don't have a lot of hair, and you've got to spend more money, put more planning resources into that, and try to reshape some of our resources like we have the Sally something Center. Thank you, Griffin Center. And that kind of thing. But even more than that kind of thing, a start. We can do more.
Thank you. Ms. Rao?
Thank you. I think there's 2 components. One, the rezoning and to look at what our options are to add additional housing. And we're going to have to add additional housing, which in theory, according to the economics groups, would say that should bring down the cost of housing a little bit. And I'm glad you asked about the seniors, because my biggest fear is the security of the seniors, especially the seniors that rent. And I have a neighbor around the corner. She's lived in her same apartment for 44 years. And all she needs is one really bad landlord to kick her out. And it's frightening. And so I think we need to look at something to help our seniors create the security to stay in their home as long as they want. And that's what I'll work for.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio?
Okay, could you repeat the question, please?
It is extremely difficult for many workers to find affordable housing in Pacific Grove. Is it possible for the city to help in any way? And equally for seniors?
Okay. In regards to affordable housing, we have ADU units, accessory dwelling units, which I've seen quite a few as I've walked the precincts through Pacific Grove. The city is very aggressive on splitting water meters so long as there's low-cost water meters, low-cost toilets, etc. there. In regards to the affordable housing, we do have in queue right now. We have behind the Lighthouse Cinema where there's going to be ability to build some affordable housing, and it's not yet, but it's in the planning stage. Also on MST, I've been able to improve seniors in regards to giving them rides to their medical services, and that's so far I have on this particular these three items here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McDonnell?
Hi. Yeah, I actually think that's a really important topic. That's something that I definitely want to work on. I've been to both the housing meetings, and I'm happy to see that the community is very on board with making sure we find strategies for keeping our current residents housed. And so I would want to use, I want to look into and research the opportunities we might have, whether that be grants or other city services, so that we can provide opportunities for people to get, as people have mentioned, ways to repair their houses, and especially people to stay in their homes. I'm very concerned about our local workers and about our seniors because I've seen and heard a lot about people being priced out of their homes. And I think it's very important that we honor and value all members of our community and find creative solutions for making sure that we can keep people living in their homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Beck?
Thank you for the question. Affordable housing is kind of a two-part situation where the city could contribute if we had city property along with the school district. So working in conjunction with both the school district and city property, we could create some affordable housing. If not, it would be up to homeowners or developers to come in and make that happen for our community. The demographic I see as two different. So we have a serious need for childcare in our community as well. So when we say affordable housing, the workforce probably could afford the housing. They can't find childcare. So it may not pertain to a lot of you in this group, but it truly is a serious concern in our community. And then senior housing are my two priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vining?
I go back to all of the years I started helping out my grandparents with their rentals. They had a few, and some of those families were very low income, and they helped them because they knew that they needed extra help. So I think it's pulling back and really taking a step back and knowing who your neighbors are in order to determine who needs help the most. And that was follow through to my 30 seconds. Oh, obviously this is a greater discussion than 30 seconds, but I can't make all the decisions. Even though I'd want to, I'd have to influence the rest of the council, but we really need to know who our neighbors are and who need housing the most. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question number 3, and Ms. Rao, you're going to start, is would you be supportive of a measure that would tax second homes to increase revenue for the city?
Thank you. This is an interesting issue because I think we have to define what is a second home and what is a vacancy. And I know that came up in the mayoral conversation as well. I think at this point, I don't think anything's off the table. And I think if the community wants to have the conversation, I think the council should be willing and open to listening to it. So I'm not saying it's off the table, and I would love to hear the pros and cons, but I think we have to be careful how we administer it so that we don't single out, people we don't want to single out.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio.
Thank you. Thank you. Second housing is a difficult situation in my how I feel, but I think the council should have a discussion on this item. We can't make a decision in isolation. It's important that the whole council decides what happens to a tax. Personally, I feel that the taxes on second homes should not be taxed. That's my opinion. That's up to the landlords. There's a whole discussion on that. So,
Okay. Ms. McDonnell?
That's a challenging question. When people buy property, they often live in two different places at once and go back and forth between those homes. And so often those are viable homes for the people who live in them. I'm guessing the question might be tailored more for ones that sit vacant all the time and are taking housing away from our community, which is a concern that I think does need to be addressed. But I also don't agree that that is something for one individual to decide. I think it's something that's going to take a lot of community effort to determine what are our best options going forward to make sure that we increase housing availability for our community members, and making sure that we're not levying unfair taxes. So we'd have to be very careful about if that was the option that the city and the council decided they wanted to go, we'd have to look very carefully at how we would do that in a fair and equitable way.
Thank you. Ms. Beck?
Thank you for the question. Second homeowners are property tax payers. They pay their property taxes. There's no reason to tax them. They're already being taxed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vining?
A neighbor down the road grew up in a house that he inherited here, and him and his wife made a life for themselves up in the Bay Area, and he comes down twice a year for a month at a time. That was a house that he inherited, but he's a registered voter in the Bay Area. So that kind of tugs at my heartstrings. When you have people in situations like this, it's not a cookie cutter situation. That's something that you have to have a conference about. But you have to step back and find out and really kind of understand what your base is and your population. And that's things that we struggle with in Pacific Grove. Everyone has a story. So no, I don't agree with taxing them. Thank you.
Mr. Chakwin?
Thank you for the question. I heard it in the first panel, and I didn't like, and I heard a little bit of it in the second panel, things that really scare me a little bit. First off, Debbie's 100% right. You buy two houses, you're paying taxes on two houses. You are taxed right away. In fact, you can turn around and say the good news is you're using less water because you're not there. There are a lot of it. So, but there's an underlying premise here that keeps crawling up that bothers me. If it's open and no one's using this house, maybe the community should get together and put someone in that house. Well, maybe they should buy the house if they want to put someone in that house. That person is the American success. They've dreamed, they've worked, they inherited. If someone's earned a second house, for goodness sake, capitalism in our American system doesn't say, well, if you're not in it, we get to use it. Not in my country. And I've been in communist countries where they don't even do that anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next question, Mr. Amelio is going to go first. It is, downtown Pacific Grove has many vacant storefronts and business spaces. Do you have any ideas which would help alleviate this situation?
Well, being on the council for the past 4 years, I do know there's some projects on the queue on some of those empty buildings. And I'll use example of Bank of America. Bank of America is going to have affordable housing on the top, commercial on the bottom. There's a antique store across from the old La Crema, and that is probably pretty close to closing escrow, and there'll be businesses in there. It's an art studio, it's zone commercial. Also, there is an antique store going across from Juice and Java. So there is things happening downtown, and I know I'm very familiar with those are some of the projects I'd like to see through my next 4 years.
Thank you. Ms. McDonnell?
I would say that I would like to find opportunities to encourage businesses to come into our community. So part of what we need is opportunities where people feel they want to be part of the community, they can come in and they can have a viable business. So I think that anything that we can do to support that is within our means, that would be something I would really like to discuss. See what options people have, see what people are interested in, find what kind of services our community would like. We have vacant storefronts. This might be the time to think about what services are we lacking that we would like to invite in, and how can we draw those kind of people into our community to support our needs as residents.
Thank you. Ms. Beck?
Thank you for the question. You know, I continually hear that we have vacant storefronts. We have 3 vacant storefronts, so we don't have that many. When I was the chair on the Economic Development Committee, I proposed putting a website together that was updated. We had a very outdated website, so any businesses looking to come to Pacific Grove saw very outdated information. So they have started working on that. We have an updated website now where businesses from outside the area can now view what properties are available, what our median home price is, our population, and those type of things. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Viney?
I was just actually educated by Debbie here to write me. I think that we think that we have an issue with the storefronts, and we do. We want to retain those people, and we want to see new businesses come in. So are there opportunities on the table to talk about how we retain these people, giving them grants, seeing them over the years? Are there any benefits to doing that? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chakwin?
Thank you for the question. This is like, I agree with Debbie Beck to a certain extent. This is a problem looking for a solution, looking for a problem a little bit. We do have some storefronts that are open. The Bank of America closed down. You're going to lose what Chase is closing down a little bit right there. So we have these people closing, but that's sort of the part of business. My mom, she stopped working to raise her 6 kids. I'm 2 of 6 hua. And she turned around, and when the kids were big enough to make into slave labor work, she decided to start a business. We started a little business, and we found a location that was good for us, a need in the area. It was a dry cleaner, and for like 10 years I slaved in that darn place, but it was a wonderful little business, and it fit a need. How did she get helped? A little bit of help from the community, their community planning. Debbie was on that Economic Development Council. That kind of monetary and resource support that the city can put second hands out to the Chamber of Commerce is exactly the kind of leverage we can do.
Thank you. Ms. Rao?
Thank you. I talked a little bit in my opening statement about an incubator space, and I think that's a great way. We've got large retail space without the hope of a large retail person coming in, and I don't really think that we want anything that's, a large multinational company coming in. So I think the incubator space is the way to go and divide it out. But unfortunately, I think that what's happened over the years is these large generational landowners who have gigantic business and property portfolios, it's cheaper for them to take the tax write-off than it is to open up that business. And I think that the business should be leased at a fair market value, and we should have more businesses in Pacific Grove. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question, and Ms. McDonald, you're going to start. So, if Pacific Grove doesn't raise taxes or allow marijuana stores, what items in the Pacific Grove budget do you propose to eliminate?
I would say, similar to in the mayoral question, it sounds like we're already running pretty tight as far as what budget we're using. That is not actually for me to decide, I don't feel. I think that is something that has to come from committee. We need to look at where our money is being spent. Are there ways to use our money more efficiently so that we have more money available for our needs? So really looking at where we could find other solutions. Things like I suggested, using our community members as resources. If we do that, we could then have more money available rather than needing to pay for consultants, because that would give us the opportunity to utilize our local expertise. And then we could find solutions that actually address the problems of our community. So I think that is one way to look at that.
Thank you. Ms. Beck?
Thank you for the question. So our three top generating revenue sources are property taxes, sales taxes, and TOT taxes. I don't see a need for a dispensary to generate $100,000 in taxes, even though you're going to see a different number. It's my understanding that we are in a great position with revenue and reserves as well. So I think we just need to keep moving forward and focus on that, but I do not see cutting back on any of our services, with the exception of our CalAm bills. And I encourage everybody to take a look at those, $750,000 during COVID to pay to CalAm to water our parks in Pacific Grove. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Butani?
I echo Debbie's sentiments completely. And I think in some ways when you're getting elected to an office, such as a city council, is that not everything is on, before you. And not necessarily the transparency aspect, but it is public, yet, all of us are kind of dancing around certain things. But mainly, yeah, what Debbie echoed, I echoed what Debbie said. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chakwin?
Chakwin, you can call me Mark, that's great. First off, I'm going to say that I'm just fundamentally against the idea of the dispensary to start with, and the idea of compensating for it with additional funds. We can always get additional funds. You never have enough money in city government. I heard someone say here, we don't have a funding problem, we have a spending problem. But the thing of it is, I have to agree with Joe Amelio when he said that our reserves are pretty good. Our general reserve it increases according to our budget 2.5% every year. And our general reserve is 10% above the minimum. So the money, we don't have to panic. We don't have to put our hair on fire. Expenses are high, 6.6 CalPERS every year, increasing. We're spending 50% more this year on our legal bills, 50% more in the budget. We don't have enough money there. So maybe the way to do it is good fiscal budgeting is the more important thing.
Thank you. Ms. Rao?
Thank you. I think the cannabis situation will be addressed at the ballot on November 8th. I think who gets cut is also a little premature given our financial stability at this point. I would always vote in favor of raising revenue than cutting services, because then where do you cut? Is it fire? Is it the police? Is it public works? And I think it would be bad to make those decisions. But I think if we can bring more businesses into downtown, if we can raise revenue through sales tax in that way, I think that we're not going to have to worry about who to cut. Let's just build up the business base. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio?
Yeah, thank you. I've already related that, we were down to $7.5 million in our reserves during COVID situation, and we brought it up to almost 10.8 million. It was supposed to be 10 million, so we're at 10.8 million. The city's in financial is in good hands right now. The state of California told our finance department 2 thumbs up if we ever run into another COVID situation. And that's thanks to our finance department for doing that. The other thing is that cannabis has been, 30 seconds, okay, cannabis has been talked about in council for 3 or 4 years, and finally got a subcommittee. It's going to be to the voters. Now, I'm a registered voter, and my prior profession was police officer, so you know where I stand, okay?
Where?
Nope, you can't speak.
Okay. No robbing. No robbing some other time. Am I, Mr. Amelio, finished? You're done?
Yeah, I think I got to stop. Oh, I didn't get a stop.
She was giving you.
You had about 10 seconds.
Whoa.
I didn't stop you.
The voters get to decide on the cannabis.
Thank you. All right. Question number 6, Ms. Beck, you're going to go first. What is your position on the draft forest management plan for Washington Park and your position on the proposed skateboard park on the south end of Washington Park at Cynics and Alden?
I am in favor of the park plan. I am not in favor of the location of the skate park. That is a area that is protected, in my opinion, even though the zoning is recreation. That is not the location for the skate park, and I certainly hope the city reconsiders and revisits other areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vining?
If there was a secret thing to do, then someone would already be doing it. And I also agree that George Washington Park isn't the best location for a skate park. But I do know that we need a skate park. And I grew up with plenty of people, friends, and I also had a cousin that was a really good skateboarder and a surfer and a snowboarder. All of these things tie in. They're all sports, Olympic sports. So we have to decide where it's going to be and have more than just a discussion. We need to decide because we're not getting any younger. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chakwin?
I agree with the forest plan. George Washington Park is a treasure. It's sort of like, this is going to sound corny, it's sort of like Central Park for our little town. It's a long, multi-block long environment. If you go into Manhattan, building, all of a sudden you get into Central Park and it goes on for blocks and blocks and blocks. And you start walking from one part of Cynics in George Washington Park, and you wind up in like Egypt or something. You just keep going for days. That's a wonderful little park, and it isn't underutilized because it's a park. And the bird watchers are there, the dog watchers are there, the people who want to escape from people like me are there. It's all there. That's a great park. In terms of the skateboard, I 100% agree. We need a skateboard park. I think Debbie's right. I don't think this, and Darla's right. It's not quite the right place. I think maybe on the school, around the school, in the air, something like that. But it has to happen. But the idea of putting it right into that park is two downs for me. One, you're going to chop into the park, and two, I'm stuffed.
You can finish your sentence,
Okay,
remember?
that's right. And the second thing that's going to happen is you're going to have the kids crossing back, school and back, and you're creating a chaos that it should be more centralized. Thank you.
Ms. Rao?
Thank you so much. You know, I'll say generally that I think that input from the subject matter experts inside of our community who have been doing the work over the years should have more weight at the city council meetings, in my opinion. I have been very popular amongst the 12-year-old boys at the farmers market. And the number one question I get is, do you believe in a skate park? And yes, I do. I don't think that George Washington Park is appropriate because my number one concern is safety. And if the kids can't ride to and from that skate park safely, if they can't navigate the cars and other obstacles as they're trying to do it, it's not going to do any good to have a skate park in a place where kids are going to get hurt. So for me, safety is my number one priority. Let's look closer to a school or other open space.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio?
Okay, the Recreation Commission, it's been to the Recreation Commission. Washington Park was their number one choice. Arnett Park was another spot. The school district property was another spot. It has not come to the district office yet. And, the school, it has not come to the city council yet. For me to say I want it at Arnett Park, then that wouldn't be right if I'm re-elected to be on the council. You cannot state where it's going to be. I am for a skate park. I was a skater from the days down Prescott Hill, so I'm all for skate parks. We allotted funds when there was no traffic. And, we allotted funds already from the Joe Biden funds, I call them, to allot money, $158,000 for a skate park. I'm all for skate parks.
Thank you. Ms. McDonnell?
Thank you. I also agree that it's critical to listen to the input of the people who are the ones who have been caring for George Washington Park before we make any decisions. I have serious concerns about the current draft plan because some of the suggestions it's posed are ones that would actually destroy the forest habitat because this is a natural park, not a manicured park. And so I think we need to understand that distinction, understanding that undergrowth supports a lot of the wildlife that live in there that don't necessarily survive up in the trees. So we need to have a balanced plan for ensuring we're protecting the wildlife in that environment. So I would like to see us looking back to our original plan and listening to our current people who work on that project. I also think the skate park could be a great idea for the kids because I think it does, as they say, build a lot of grit and teach great skills for children and give them a great activity to work on. I also agree with George Washington Park. It's not a good location for that because of the environmental impact it would have, and it's not a fit for that particular neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question, and Ms. Vining, you're going to go first.
Okay.
Do you support the American Tin Cannery Hotel project as the current council approved it in January of 2022, which is now on appeal to the Coastal Commission? Or do you think the Coastal Commission should require that its size be reduced from the current proposed 225 rooms, 2 swimming pools, and 89% site coverage?
I have to tell you, I want to say that one of the candidates said it's $1 million question, and I absolutely agree with them. This is the thing. Any of the candidates here are not going to be able to make a decision because it's already been made and they're on appeal to the Coastal Commission, which is now going to be in November. So with that being said, it's about discussion from that point, and we're not there yet. So we have a little bit of time to, for the candidates coming in or for the council members that are coming in, there's going to be much discussion from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chakwin?
I made a decision on that hotel. I was the chair of the planning commission. I was the vice chair and was the chair pro tem for the meeting that did not pass that hotel, and then was called up by city council to pass it 6-1. I think there's no project that goes into the city of Pacific Grove that is just as presented passed. It doesn't happen. Even if you yourself are a homeowner and you want a project, they're going to say put in a curb, reduce that, make changes. That happens. This hotel basically made a couple of cosmetic changes, but the 3 critical changes that I thought were incredible, and water, when we talk about it, were they didn't telemetry the seals for acoustic protection for takes. They didn't do it. They wouldn't do it. Would that hurt them? It actually would have helped them. They refused to do it. They refused to do mitigation measures for Sloat Avenue. Sloat Avenue is going to become Times Square, as I've read, if they go that, or a truck stop. And finally, they just decided to chop down the trees. C.S. Lewis, all over again, this hideous strength.
Thank you.
Oh, I was just starting.
Ms.
Too bad we were on a roll. The ATC was voted on. The voters in 2016 voted to rezone for a hotel. I'm not going to overturn the will of the voters, but what I will do is commit that whatever happens through this council, that we will make sure that it's done and it's done correctly, that it's respectful to the environment. And I think it's important that, we've listened to community. I mean, there's been so many meetings about this. And I mean, candidly, this was 2016 it was voted on. It's 2022, almost 6.5 years later, and we still don't even have a date in front of the Coastal Commission. So, I know that this is a concern for folks, and I totally understand it, but I'm going to make sure that when it's done right, and it respects the environment, it respects the city and the residents, and that we get a really good product that makes our town better.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio?
Thank you for the question. We voted already on the ATC project 6-1. I was one of the 6 on the council to vote for the ATC project. Of course, it's before the Coastal Commission right now. And I think on the bigger picture of the ATC project if you could look forward to it, consider the employment, the amount of people that we employed in Pacific Grove. They're going to have conference rooms situated where they'll be able to, where our PG breakers, graduation ceremonies will be held there. It's, but it is voted 6-1. It's before the Coastal Commission, and right now we're in a queue right now. So,
Thank you. Ms. McDonnell?
Thank you. Yeah, as was already stated, this is not in the hands of the incoming city council, of course. It is in the purview of the Coastal Commission now. I do have some concerns about it as it stands right now. There will be traffic issues, there are environmental impact. I'm concerned about the environmental impact both for removing the trees, because native trees that are, you know, well established and provide cover for the nesting birds would be compromised and replaced by smaller trees that would never reach that same stature, and so I find that concerning. What I also agree with is that we may be able to have a role in ensuring that we implement it in a way that does the best for the environment and for our community, is respectful of the neighbors, addresses the parking and the traffic issues that will be of concern, and can be actually a productive thing for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Beck?
Thank you for the question. I support any project that is environmentally sound for our community. One thing that I've heard time and time again is traffic, but do you all realize that every person coming to the aquarium comes down the same road and stops 1 block before the ATC building? So the traffic should be a non-issue, and yet I keep hearing that time and time again, but yet we allow hundreds of thousands of visitors to come into our community 1 block away. So I just wanted to point that out, but I do support any project that is environmentally sound. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, Mr. Chakwin, you're first. How should the city of Pacific Grove resolve the lawsuit brought against the city by former police officer Gonzalez?
Oh, great question. Okay, it's not wise to talk about pending legal litigation in the city of Pacific Grove. And I won't offer any kind of a Solomon-like decision for something like that. You can't. It's just a bad idea. I will say this, that I'm not privy to all the details of the facts. From what I've read in the papers, it's a he said, she said. Is he having these hate speech things, or is he being accused of going over the top for political motives? I don't know. But I do know one thing, that the judicial system will peel that onion back again and again and again, and we're going to get some resolution. And whether he's right or whether he's wrong, I think I can sit back and I trust our judicial system, and they'll come up with an answer one way or the other.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Thank you. I can't believe I'm agreeing with Mark, but I also think it's pretty irresponsible to weigh in on pending litigation, especially given the topic. I think that when you look at what is going on, and I think Mark is right that it's going to go through the legal system, and the outcome is going to be based on legal theory and legal practice. So I think we need to let it play out, and then we can comment on it when it's all done.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio?
The Michael Gonzalez question is in closed session right now. It's pending litigation. I'm not allowed to discuss anything about the Michael Gonzalez case. It's confidential, and since I've been on the council, it's been in closed session, and it's pending litigation.
Ms. McDonnell?
Thank you. I would have to echo that. I'm not an attorney, and even if I were, it is not my place to be discussing it. That will be for the attorneys to present their cases, or the jurors to decide were his rights violated. And I think it does, however, point to an opportunity for us to look carefully in the future to make sure that we don't have a similar incident happen again, and we just go about it in a different way.
Thank you. Ms. Beck?
Thank you for the question. I, too, cannot make comment on that. We don't know all the facts of the case. And I just hope upper management is making the right decision. Thank you.
Ms. Viney?
And finally, I used to work in a law office, and my boss is my mentor, one of the best mentors I ever had. And his advice was, less is more.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next question, and Ms. Rao, you're going to go first. So, what is your experience doing volunteer work in Pacific Grove?
Thank you for the question. You know, volunteering is very important to me. In 2013, I won a volunteer award from President Obama. It's thank you. It's been a core value of mine my entire time. I've spent time volunteering at vaccination clinics. I've spent time volunteering at a city board and commission. And I think it's a core value that I'll take with me as a volunteer member of the city council. That is something that giving back to the city is very important to me, especially since the city, I feel, has given me so much. And I couldn't be happier to live here and volunteer here.
Thank you, Mr. Amelio.
Thank you. There's been numerous things I've been on, but most recently the classic car auction. And I helped control traffic at Forest and Lighthouse there, and Mo Amar was my boss that day. And, so I had to carry the torch on that very well. So the other thing is that for volunteering in the community, I've done 3 memorials on my own time. One was COVID, one was 13 soldiers that got killed in Afghanistan. We did that at Lovers Point. Veterans Day, and actually there was another one. I'm also a member of the Italian Heritage Society. Thank you, Tina. Also, Uvalde incident with those 19 students that got killed. Also, I'm on the Italian Heritage Society and the Italian Catholic Federation, and I volunteered quite a few hours with them. Usually it's everything Italian.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually, I'm really enjoying volunteering with the community, working on both the Harbor Seal Project to better understand our numbers there and to report that to the public, and also the Black Oyster Catcher Monitoring Program. They're another species that is on the verge of potentially being on the endangered list, and so we're looking at how can we better understand them to better understand what resources they need. The other aspect of that I really like is educating people, because one of the things we do when we're out there at the fence, we're out doing the bird watching, is we are educating the public, and it's really great to see how especially young people, but adults alike and tourists, they get so excited as they learn more that they plan their vacations around coming here so they can observe it. And there's really a lot of excitement that comes, and that's a great way to build a sense of ecology and a sense of caring about the planet, is to educate people on what great resources we have.
Thank you. Ms. Beck?
Thank you for the question. Volunteering just in Pacific Grove during COVID-19, I created the Adopt a Block for our businesses in downtown. We had ambassadors that would help at the stores to monitor people coming and going, making sure they had sanitizers for their hands. I volunteer in the classroom at Robert Dowd School. I created the Adopt a Wing at Pacific Grove High School, which again consisted of power washing the school, the lockers, trimming the trees. I chaired for the EDC, and I was also a commissioner on the EDC, a commissioner for the Planning Commission, and then also myself and my 6-year-old, we do beach cleanup at Lovers Point Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Viney?
This actually goes back to community service ever since high school. And I remember the coolest community service opportunity I had was to work for the Meals on Wheels. And so I tried to follow that and continue with my relationships there and volunteer when I can. I've also worked with the iHelp ever since I was in 7th grade and have continued to do that. And lastly, I'm going to share with you that a lot of my volunteer work has been with hospice care and also with the families who just need someone to talk to in their time of grieving. And sometimes they just want to hear a soft voice listening to them. And that's one of the best rewarding things, because mental health is a big deal. Thank you.
And Mr. Chakwin?
Okay, well, aside from the Planning Commission, I would say within the community itself. By the way, I was in the Army 34 years, private to colonel, and they taught you never volunteer. Don't put your hand up. And I can see if you're in the Army and you're working 24/7, it makes sense. But when you're in Pacific Grove and retired, put your hand up. I've volunteered for, I guess I can say, St. Vincent's de Paul. I worked for them for about 7 years, and they are a wonderful organization who gives out food. Tuesdays and Thursdays, they gave out, if you're homeless, they give you tents and sleeping bags. And it's a great organization that I did a lot of times. Also was a rent and treasure and utilities. I volunteered to be one of the voting people in the voting precincts. And by the way, that I could tell you, ours was legal. No one cheated us. I volunteered to be a treasurer in my HOA. I'm an HOA person, and I did. And finally, I volunteered to fix the telescopes in all the Monterey County libraries that have free telescopes. Ours doesn't have a telescope yet. I'm going to get that. But they need to be columnated and they need to be adjusted, and I volunteer to do that every time. So I do.
Okay, Mr. Amelio, you're going to go first for the next question. How do you feel about bringing back the Feast of Lanterns?
Could you repeat the question?
Several times.
I understand the question, thank you. We on the council canceled the Feast of Lanterns several months ago on the 7-0 vote. And I was one of them.
Ms. McDonnell?
I think that this is an issue that needs to be addressed with sensitivity. I understand that it is a community event that the community loves, and I think creating something new that the community loves is a wonderful idea. But I do think that we have to honor the cultural insensitivity that was tied to this particular event and basically separate those two things so we're creating something new for the community that does not appropriate culture from other people.
I'm going first.
Thank you, Ms. Beck.
Actually, the committee is working and they have a new name. It's called Festival of Lights. And they are looking to bring something back this summer in Pacific Grove. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bunning.
For residents who have been here for a really, really long time, I know some of those personally, and they are heartbroken. That doesn't mean that it's going to come back. I am really excited about the ambassadors group and just knowing that they're going to be doing a Festival of Lights that actually is part of the things that are going back to tradition, goes back to Chautauqua Hall even, that these are celebrations and we need new celebrations of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chakwin?
Wow, this could be unpacked for about an hour. Okay, so I want the Festival of Lights. I think it should never have been canceled, and it was a travesty that I didn't get more involved earlier instead of my letter and step into it. Okay, in my former career, 20 years of my 34 years in the Army was spent as a FAIL. That's a foreign area officer. That means you go to different cultures, and you don't shoot them, you deal with them, you work in them. One of my cultures was China. Okay, I spent a lot of years in China. I know a lot about China. I know about as much about China as the guys that you hauled in as experts. When the Festival of Lights went on, my brother-in-law, who's Chinese, I brought him to the Festival of Lights, and he wasn't culturally shocked. He turned around and said, hey, can I buy one of those tickets? And my wife's Chinese. The Festival of Lights is not a culture, the lanterns is not culturally insensitive. I'm telling you, and there's an irony in this. When you have a Japanese American telling you that the Chinese are going to be offended, think of the history of China, Japan, China. Think of America, China. You're getting, okay, I could go on.
He gave me $10 to stop it.
20.
We listened to hundreds of public comments over the course of not only the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force, but also the City Council. And some of the stories on the impact of the way that the Chinese immigrants were treated in Pacific Grove, all the way back to including the festival, the Feast of Lanterns. I recall at the City Council meeting, the the mayor said specifically, if anybody in the community has got a better celebration, has a better community celebration, any idea, they would be willing to look at it. You're talking about a multi-venue, multi-day event. It's difficult to plan, and the nonprofit that does it didn't want to. So, okay, I had a suggestion from my wife last night. Why don't we have the Otter Festival? And I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. So let's hear it for the Otters and the Otter Festival.
We ought to do that.
Question number 11. Ms. McDonnell, you're going to go first. Why do you support or not support Project Home Key?
I think that it's very important to address the needs our community faces. So what I'm concerned about is, have we done a proper needs assessment of the homeless we have in our community and the needs for that? I have some concerns about if we take federal funding that doesn't leave us in charge of how we run the program, could we find a better way to do that? I think that there are other ways to find creative solutions within our community to address the same problem in a way that best serves our actual community, and I would like to see us address that.
Thank you. Ms. Beck?
Thank you for that question. We have no resources in Pacific Grove to have a homeless hotel converted. I think we'd be doing a disservice to the homeless population. Also, I want to focus on, we need childcare in our community. We don't need a hotel converted for the homeless in Pacific Grove. Thank you.
Ms. Vining?
This is a real tricky question, but it's not tricky for me. We simply don't have the resources. And I do want to share that the people who are homeless in this area, there are some of them that don't want to rent. They choose not to rent so that they can save their money for their day-to-day. So they choose to live in an RV and take their use of the ocean by day and sleep in the neighborhoods by night. And that's been going on for ever since I was a little girl. So this has been going on for quite some time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chakwin?
When this came in front of the city council, I actually called in and recommended not endorsing it. For a change, they listened. In this case, it wasn't well thought out. It didn't have an end state. It didn't have guaranteed monetization throughout the project, and it didn't even have a vetted, completed target to execute. It was a half-baked grab at getting a grant. Get the grant now or you lose it. And this, I'm going to talk about this in my closing, but a lot of the projects that come up are presented to the council, and God bless them, they got 500-page packets and more. I know, I've sat and seen these things. They're giving stuff that I wouldn't say garbage, but it's incomplete, and it's not analytically written down and worked through. Without that, you can't make a decision, especially something like that has an $18 million price tag coming forward, giving and then taking later on. You can't do that without proper planning and fiscal diligence. Didn't exist.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you. My concern with Project Home Key, and I think that there has to be a unhoused element to the projects that we're putting forward. My issue is what happens when the state or the federal commitment runs out, and then what are we supposed to do as far as funding? And so I think without, being able to stretch that funding out as long as needed, I think that's going to be the barrier, in my opinion. We need to make sure that if they're going to give us money to put up a unhoused solution, that solution's got to be fully funded.
Mr. Amelio?
Thank you. When Project Home Key came up for an application, I was the lone wolf, shall we say, the lone councilman that sent to apply for this Project Home Key. It was shot down. This is part of the democratic process. But thing about applying for a application, it's just to apply the application. And to give you an example, King City received $13.1 million on their last project, Home King. The other thing is, I want to compliment the Pacific Grove Police Department, because if a homeless person comes in a situation, they're Johnny on the spot in regards to helping those people and giving them outlets. And we also have 28 homeless people in the city of Pacific Grove, and it will continue to grow. And we need to do something as a council. It's coming up on the agenda, and suddenly it's going to be with the city has to do something. We had an application ready to go.
Thank you. Okay, this is going to be the last question, and then we'll be going to final statements. So, question number 12, Ms. Beck, you're going first. How or what is your plan to increase physical and social opportunities for our older children?
Older children. I mean, that could be 30, it could be 40. I am a big supporter of the rec department. It was such a big part of my life, so I'm going to put that in that category as older. The rec department needs to improve. We don't offer services for our youth. The ones we have are very limited. When you go to sign up for a rec summer camp, it's limited to 20 children. And you have to call in by 9 a.m. and you're playing with the computer like signing on to Southwest Airlines. And so seriously, we need to expand that. We need to go back to the days when I grew up in Caledonia Park, where I could spend all summer long there. Charlene would be there, Alton would be there, all taking care of us, and we had ice cream on Friday. So I just wish we could get back to a rec program that supports our youth in Pacific Grove. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Viney?
This is probably my favorite question of the night. The business owner isn't in this room right now, but I had a talk with her this morning, and I said this is going to be one of my huge platforms for small businesses. She has a brand new business, had a ribbon cutting earlier this year, and her business allows children with special needs up to our seniors who either have mobility issues or just want to get into the water, and it's a swimming business that she has. And what's great about that is that there's revenue for the city, and you're also helping individuals. And what I think is the best thing is if we get like a little charter bus and have different ways of getting individuals up there for more mobility options, that would be great, and it also increases her business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you repeat it one more time, just to clarify?
Okay. How do you plan to increase physical and social opportunities for our older children?
Okay. My older children, I'm thinking of my son who has a 13-year-old grandson, my grandson now, so that's a little bit different world and category for me. I don't have a plan for older children. If you're talking teenagers right now, what are they going to do? And, I used to joke, take our teenagers, put them in the freezer until they're 24, and they come out, they'll be great people, because between that time, they're not great people. But that's not a plan, I can see that. But I would say that the rec services initiatives and these private initiatives are good. I would have to investigate it. I would have to solicit input from what's dynamic and available in our community before I'd be able to give you, oh, here's the right answer to that. Because frankly, I don't have the right answer, aside from the freezer.
Thank you. Ms. Rao?
Parenting 101. I think the rec department absolutely needs to be fully funded. I think one of the things to do is to get kids off the couch and enough of this and get them out into the community. I think a skate park is a great way to do that for the older kids. And I think expanding one of the playgrounds to include an inclusive playground space for our special needs kids in our community, and that would include older kids as well, because I think they need a space desperately. And I'm not going to say anything about the pickleball court.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio?
Thank you. You mentioned older children, right? Am I correct on that? Older children? So I've been thinking about that. That's a nice thing about going up last is, are we all older children? I think we all are older children. And but the recreation department has done we on the council has funded extra employees for the recreation commission, recreation department. The other thing is that when I was on the recreation commission, I proposed a low-income application so that any student or older children that have problems trying to financially afford the recreation activities, they can apply, get an application done, and there's a sliding scale for low-income people.
Ms. McDonnell.
Thank you. You know, my answer to that would be really ask the age group that we're talking about what their needs are and what their desires are. The best way to create something that people will use is to ask them what they want. Find out what they want, find out what we can develop that will help them to thrive, help them to become great contributing members of society. And I think that increasing vitality obviously is a good thing, and if they can come up with their own ideas of how they would like to do that, I think that that would be the best thing.
Thank you. So, we are going back now for the final, and we're going to go back. So, Ms. McDonnell, you are going to go number 1, and then Mr. Amelio, Ms. Rao, Mr. Chakwin, Ms. Vining, and Ms. Beck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to kind of get to know people more. I love it when it's a discussion back and forth so we can get more input, although we of course got some of that from the questions that were asked. I would love the opportunity to represent you and work towards ensuring the vitality of our community. I think it's critical that we protect our wildlife and our environment as a means not only for doing the right thing as our stewards of the Marine Protected Reserve, but also for drawing in the tourists that we want to draw to our businesses to support the financial vitality so that we are then able to support all the needs of our community. It will take a village to make the changes we need to do, so I would love to be kind of a voice for everybody else who maybe isn't as vocal. And I'd love to represent you so that we can be a united and powerful voice for our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Amelio.
Thank you. This is one of the things I've had some notes written down on. As Pacific Grove Mayor and Pro Tem and council member of Pacific Grove for almost 4 years now, I plan to focus on the following. Making decisions what's best for Pacific Grove. That's very important. Everything I make is what's best for Pacific Grove. I think respect and honesty, if anybody knows me, I'm always respectful and honest with everybody. Fiscal responsibility, I've talked about that. Preserve Pacific Grove's natural environment and continue to promote and encourage Pacific Grove businesses and make sure it's environmentally sound. Improve streets, sidewalks, retain our valuable employees for the city of Pacific Grove, and encourage local employment. Recreation opportunities, already stated, skate park. Transparency at all levels of our government, and improve senior housing and medical services, and also look at our code of conduct always at council level.
Thank you. Ms. Rao.
Thank you. And thank you again to the League of Women Voters and to the PG Chamber. You've heard a lot tonight about everyone's vision for Pacific Grove. Mine is one of optimism and looking forward to what's possible. We can build a city that benefits from a community space, revitalize our downtown, and prioritize our infrastructure. We can create and protect our seniors and their housing to ensure that they can stay in the home that they've been living in. I consider myself a public servant, not a politician. I've not taken any money or solicited or accepted endorsements from any agencies or business who may have business in front of the city council. I want to do what's best for PG and the residents. You can read more about my plans visiting tinaforpg.com. You can help the campaign by placing yard signs and hosting a gathering. And I thank you very much for attending here tonight, and I'm humbly asking for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Chakwin.
Thank you very much again to the League for sponsoring this, and thank all of you people for coming out here. I remember coming out here maybe 10, 12 years ago when I saw one of my neighbors running for city council, and it was a long night. But I'm just going to say this. I'll say, first off, I have brochures, and if learning about someone in 30-second sound bites is very frustrating, especially if it's Mark Chakwin. The brochures will give you a web page link, and you can contact me by email and talking and phone. The second thing I'll say is this. The problems we all know about need a serious solution. I like humor. I'm a very quick person that way, but I'm also dead serious when it comes to work. I believe you should take your work seriously and do your homework seriously. Never come unprepared, you'd be fired. So the second thing I'll say, though, is there's another issue, the issue of process. Too many times you, everyone in the world, raise your hand and say, I have a great idea. Good, thank you very much. Didn't get written. Or you'll type in an idea. Great, thank you. Didn't get put in there. That's going to change if I get a chance to be on this council. People's input. Thank you.
Right.
I need more time.
Thank you for the opportunity. I am the candidate on this panel that is the authentic Pacific Grove City Council candidate. I'm not tied to a specific rhetoric. When I walked into the room this night, I walked in here as a servant, and we have issues that we can get the job done together. And with that, it's about listening. 30 seconds back. The people who need support the most are the residents, not the city. We want to talk to the people in the neighborhoods. Hopefully we can get more transparency if I'm elected. And I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm surrounded by great leaders in here tonight. And I have a website, Darla V for PGCC.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Beck.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. It is after 8 o'clock, so it's getting a little late. I wanted to say I'm listening, I'm involved, I care about the future of Pacific Grove. I encourage all of you to stay involved, to get involved, to watch on Channel 25, on Zoom, come to the City Council meetings. We need your input as well, but I am listening. I just want to leave with that and look forward to all of your support. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you. All right, let's give her a
Debby. Sitting next to you. Maybe something will rub off. Please grab a